In the 1940s, a young Bedouin shepherd was searching for a lost goat close to the shores of the Dead Sea. He thought that the goat had perhaps gone into a cave, so he picked up a stone and he threw it into the cave, expecting the goat to come out. But no goat came out. Instead, he heard the sound of broken pottery. He went into the cave and he saw that he had hit an ancient jar, and in that jar were scrolls. This was one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century, the Dead Sea Scrolls, which then went on to prove that there was an ancient library of Qumran with thousands and thousands of scrolls that were about 2,000 years old. How had they remained preserved for so long in those caves? And there are many theories. One theory has it that it was because they were in a desert. The air is very dry, very hot. There's not much moisture, which would have caused the scrolls to deteriorate. Another theory is the fact that they were packed in earthenware containers, earthenware clay jars. And we actually see in the Tanakh, in the Bible, there was a king who wanted a particular scroll to be preserved, and he told his servants, put it in an earthenware container. An earthenware container has that ability to preserve. Now, in our generation, we perhaps have less earthenware utensils in our home. But in the times of the Bible, in the times of the Talmud and the Mishnah, earthenware utensils were commonplace. Everybody had them in their home. And earthenware utensils have certain special laws that are unique to them that don't apply to other utensils. And some of them we find, for example, in this week's parasha, where the Torah is speaking about purity and impurity, ritual impurity. So, for example, you have a metal pot, and the metal pot comes into contact with something impure, the body of a certain dead animal. Now you want to purify it. You want to use it in your home with pure ingredients. So you take that metal pot and you put it into a mikveh, a ritual pool, and it becomes pure again. But this is not so with an earthenware container. If an earthenware container becomes impure, the only way to remove that impurity is actually to break it, to smash it, so that it's no longer usable for the purpose that it was originally made for. Then you can fix it again. But the only way to remove that impurity is to break it down. And our sages looked for some type of meaning and relevance from this law to a human being. And indeed they found it. We find that a human being in rabbinical writings and indeed in the Tanakh is compared to an earthenware container. An example would be in the famous prayer Unatane Tokef that we recite on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. There we speak about the fact that God judges every person, who will live and who will die, who by the sword, who by water, who by famine. And then we speak of God as being great and man as being very frail. Man is compared to a blade of grass, to air that just passes, to a cloud that has no permanence. And we also compare the human being to a shard of pottery. We too are like that earthenware utensil, but we can become impure. We can sully our souls with sin. How do we remove that sin? By breaking ourselves. That is, to become humble of spirit. Because it's really arrogance that leads a person to sin in the first place. If a person truly understood the greatness of God and how small he was, he wouldn't dare to sin against God. But the evil inclination builds a person up and says, you're special. These laws don't apply to you. And he becomes arrogant and then he sins. As King Solomon said, pride comes before the fall. And therefore, when a person is coming back to God, when a person is doing repentance, the idea being is that they must view themselves as this earthenware utensil, full of impurity. How are they going to remove that impurity? To break their heart, as it were. To become humble in front of human beings and humble before God. And in that way to remove the impurity. So it might be something that is in the realm of theory for most of us, this earthenware container, but it teaches us that vital lesson, that in order to remove that impurity from our hearts, the way to do is to break it, to become humble and to become better people. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.